Hi, everybody. So I hope everybody can hear me. Welcome to you all. We appreciate you guys all taking the time out from your busy days in order to, spend time and listen to us. Our objective today is to try to give you a bit of an idea of how our Zendesk integration, how you can use Paligo. I know we've got a mixture between people who aren't currently using Paligo, and there's a lot of you who are using Paligo, and I'll try to have that middle ground between the two so you all get something out of it. So I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction into Paligo. I'll keep that as short as I possibly can. There's a lot to say, but time is short. Then we'll go into why you would potentially want to use the integration or the benefits, the additional benefits that Paligo actually offers to Zendesk when you're pushing the content in. And then I'll go through the process of all the different things that you need to do, and they're not so many, but go through the process of what you need to do to get the Zendesk integration working in Paligo, both on the Paligo side and on the Zendesk side. And assuming there's time at the end, which there really should be, then we can have some Q&As, and I'll do my best to answer all your questions. Okay. So if you're all here, you all know the Paligo is the next generation of technical documentation. An enterprise level product that's more than a product, it's more of a solution to help you manage, author, collaborate, and publish your technical content. But it's available to all customers, from a single user to thousands of users. You all can use the same enterprise level product. This page is going to give you the basics of where we are, the 3 steps to get to Paligo. It's the more logical steps of what's available in the market. So first of all, as many of you know, we're based structured authoring. We're based on an industry standard, which is really important. There's a lot of products on the market. They're not industry standards. They're not future-proof. You'll have future migration issues. And structured authoring keeps you in a very natural consistency level, trustworthy level for authoring and for publishing. For those of you, by the way, who are new to this, if you want a more detailed introduction, the quick one I'm doing now, please sign up for a one-to-one demo. We'll go through it much slower. I'm just speeding through it so we hit all levels here. Number 2, what's called a CCMS, a component content management system. Essentially, that's more than, for example, the help authoring tools that people know about. It's kind of often a Windows-based system. We're a database. We're servers. Okay, there's a lot of workflows, a lot of collaboration. There's a lot more to the system, and a very granular system as well for the different types of reuse you need to do. In today's market, Paligo allows you to go to the top of the pile with the CCMS. So you should be in a structured authoring and CCMS. So we normally will just show you that Paligo is the best CCMS on the market, but it's where you need to be. This is what Paligo does out the box. So first of all, obviously, the bread and butter, the meat and potato, is the authoring side of things. So that's where you'll be writing and doing your different types of reuse that we have in Paligo, the variables, conditions, or profiling. That's where you put the content together. The collaboration, so there's different types of users. So you've got reviewers who can review content, but they collaborate together. You've got contributors that can draft new content. And you've got a project planner. You can actually manage that process, manage the workflow, see what's going on. You can mix and match those types of users, and maybe a new user coming out soon. But you can mix and match the different types of users, and you all work together. It doesn't matter if you're located in New Delhi, in Australia, in London, in California. You all work together and collaborate on that same system. Translation. So for those of you who translate the content, and I've noticed more and more companies recently are moving in that direction. So we have direct integrations with translation memory systems. We have, or you can send the XLIF files, which are the XML files used by translation memory systems, a proper workflow to an efficient workflow. And the publishing is ready for PDF, for HTML5, and also for Zendesk. So if you have problems managing your translations in Zendesk, then Paligo can also be used for that. And you can push your English and your French and your Portuguese into the Zendesk articles. Just a note from a ticket we've had before, just ensure that if you're going to push different languages into Zendesk, those languages are already set up in Zendesk. Otherwise, that won't work, obviously. Okay. The publishing side, HTML5 PDF. Some of you might not just be using Zendesk, you might be using some of our other publishing outputs as well. So that all comes directly from Paligo, and you've got a huge amount of flexibility in how you modify the PDFs and the HTMLs. But like everything else in Paligo, if you need help, you need a customization, then we're always there to help you. You're never on your own. Integrations, so we're talking specifically about Zendesk. We also have Salesforce and the HTML5, with lots of other types of integrations as well, and other systems, the videos and 3D, all sorts of integrations that we go in. In the Paligo world, we realize, if I go back 20 years and I started writing, writers sat in their own room without connection to other departments. Paligo completely recognizes that now, and it's how it should be, technical content is part of the much bigger world. So here we're talking about support platforms and other systems and elements and integrations as well. So your technical content can be part of your full ecosystem within your company. And versioning. So the check-in, check-out, the things that you, in other systems, you might integrate with a special versioning system. It's part of our core platform. So, and you can compare versions, refer back, and significantly you've got branching as well, which is useful, certainly in the Zendesk world. All that comes together. If I move on, I'm trying to do this quickly for all those of you who know existing users. You might have very complex documentation. You can have so many products and versions and languages and output formats. It can be very difficult to manage in some systems. Paligo, as a lot of you know, makes that easy. You can, different content going to different places, different scenarios, etc., etc. And that's what for the multi-dimensional content. We'll leave that page out for now. So when you've got in Paligo in your topics, you push to a publication and push to the outside world. In this case today, we're concentrating on the Zendesk side. And just a little word, I'm going to show a couple of examples, is that it's not just that you have the benefit that you can author in Paligo and push to Zendesk, right? And Zendesk is a good system, but Paligo, let's say, it takes an extra level of authoring. But there's some things you can easily do when you're writing into Paligo to push to Zendesk. So first of all, submenus. So if you've got a large page with a lot of subsections in, right, then in some of the themes you can have a submenu, which I'll show you in a second. So you can break that page down and navigate through it. Accordions, drop downs, lightbox. So you can click on an image and it can show into a larger image, and I'll show you. Code syntax highlighting enabled. So you can push code into, put code in your Paligo, and when it goes into Zendesk, it'll be highlighted accordingly. Dynamic code snippets. So this is a regular thing for Paligo. So let's say you've got API content or whatever it is, your code. You don't actually have to put the code inside Paligo. You can have the code residing on an external server, and your engineers can update that code, and Paligo will call that code when it's being published, including in Zendesk. That can save you a lot of trouble. You can easily add videos and 3D images as well. And I think significantly, doing a cross-reference in Zendesk is a very manual job, right, as I'm sure you all know. So the cross-referencing when you're working in Paligo works directly inside Zendesk as well. And on top of that, there's also an option to have the linking even between different categories. Even though in Paligo you only push one category at a time, there is a method that you can actually link in between categories. So that's a really powerful feature. And you can also use branching to manage your multiple versions. Zendesk doesn't really have, as I'm aware at the moment, too much on the managing multiple versions. So branching inside Paligo will help you do that. Let me just go out of here a second, just show you a couple of those examples. As you can see, this is actually a large topic. And on the left here, you can actually see the menu for moving around this large topic. That's one of the things I mentioned to you. Okay. We mentioned that you've got the, you've got videos that are working in here. You've got the pictures that come in as light boxes. Okay, as I showed you. Okay. We have, this is the code example. So you can see the code has come with the relevant coloring as well. Again, just setting up, and we'll mention later how to do a little bit, but this works. Each time you push, it'll appear as it should do. And things like accordions, drop-downs, which are very simple as well. Well, in the regular Zendesk, you'd have to go into the code and manually set these things up. You just set up in Paligo in the normal way, and it'll push into Zendesk. Let's go back to our presentation. Okay, and just a word about reusable content. I don't know if any of you, there's an article in the community for Zendesk called Allow Articles Be Posted to Multiple Sections. It's still an option I believe they're still working on a few years down. So in Paligo, that's no issue. You can reuse the content inside Paligo in multiple categories, sections, whatever you want. Okay, so there's no, you get a chance to simply reuse the content from inside Paligo, and there's lots of different types of reuse. This is not the time and place now for going into detail, but you can reuse topics, you can reuse parts of topics, which are called informal topics, snippets in some applications they're called. You can reuse and connect paragraphs together. You've got variables that include text and they include images. You've got conditions and profiling, probably to levels you might not have seen before in terms of flexibility options. So, and you can also reuse the content in multiple languages. So Paligo offers you a lot more in the Zendesk environment. And this will be our last slide for now until we jump into Paligo and Zendesk to show you. But this is important to understand all the different parts that you need to do. It's not a lot, but to get yourself set up. Let me just read them through to give us perspective, then we'll jump in. Okay. So first of all, we need to create we're going from left, right, to there. No. So first of all, we need to set our Zendesk integration settings and basically get the API and the login so you can actually connect from Paligo into Zendesk. Second thing we need to be aware of, so we know that Zendesk has category section article, so our publication in Paligo needs to match that. Then we've got a layout, a Zendesk option in the layout editor to put a few specific options of how you want the behavior of the HTML to appear inside Zendesk. Then you will publish your Zendesk, how to publish the content, how to push it over. And down on the Zendesk side, we need to do some things with the theme in order to make sure it keeps the functionality that we just actually mentioned in the previous page. It's 2 slides ago with the code, with the light boxes, the accordions. So we've got various things to do in order to make sure that works okay, and also to change the style sheet, to change the CSS. So the content push from Paligo can look exactly how you want it to look in your Zendesk. And that's what we'll do there. Okay. Let me just show you an example of one company. Excuse me while I type things correctly. I think my typing is gone. Sorry. Cloud share. Sorry. Okay. So this is an example of a Zendesk using Paligo. So obviously the theme is outside of the Paligo world. Paligo is just pushing into the Zendesk API. So this is created obviously separately, but the content in here is actually come in from Paligo and has been modified to look exactly as they want it to. Okay. So now let's jump into Paligo. So I'm not going to explain too much, but essentially over here is where the document is where you manage your topics and your publications, which is where we're going to go to in a second. But the first thing we want to do is to set it up so we can actually connect to our Zendesk. So you go to your options over here, settings, and this you need to be the administrator. And you'd click on integrations. And here's our various integrations, and one of them is Zendesk. And what you would need to do is you put in the Zendesk URL, not a host mapping as your original one that you would log into, your email, and your admin from Zendesk would need to give you an API key. Create a new API, it needs to copy it and needs to give that to you. That's what we have here. Just so you notice, by the way, in the enterprise version of Paligo, you can actually have multiple Zendesk. So if you actually have content or different partners, or whatever the scenario may be, that's an option. You don't see this in the regular version, but for the enterprise, you can have multiple Zendesks if you like, and you can actually flick between them as well. Okay, and you can push your content into publish or draft, but a note on that, unless it's changed, that once something has already been published, even if it's put to draft, it still stays as published. I would recommend leaving as published, but then it's up to you. And the taxonomies can also become labels. The taxonomies over here can also become labels inside your Zendesk. So that's all you need to do to set up. You can test it just to make sure that it works. But as far as the connection is concerned, that's all you need to do to set up. No more than that. Okay? Next thing, let's talk about the structure of your publications. So even though Paligo is one large database, everything's managed by folders. You know, you can create your own folders, and as if you know who've used Paligo already. So in this case, what generally happens, you can do you want a publications folder that contains your publications and lots of topics. Okay, so let's open this publication as an example. So this publication has different levels. Okay, so in a normal environment, we don't mind, right? And a different environment. In the Zendesk environment, it's really important because in Zendesk we have category, section, and article. Now, in this case, what's happening each time is this is the publication is pushes to a Zendesk category. Okay, so in this case, this is the top level. This create your first topic would be the section, the second level, and publishing would be your article. That's what would get published. So in this case as well, the not quite elementary basics would be the article, and lists would be the section. This is really important. Okay, now let's say you had a fourth level. Now Zendesk doesn't support a fourth level. Okay, so what would happen in this case is this topic would then become part of the publishing topic. So it's not that it gets ignored. Okay, that's something important. Something else, there's an option in the Zendesk layout, which we'll see soon, is if this section or this second topic, okay, if it's to become a section, right? So if it's a section and we don't want it also to be an article, okay, note that whatever the contents of this topic is, if it's just a section, if it has any text and content underneath the title, it all be ignored because sections obviously can't contain content, right? So note that, so not to put any content in here they really need, because if you set this not to be an article, then you would lose that content, okay? And I'll show you very soon how to decide if this create your first topic section becomes an article or doesn't become an article. If it became an article here, you'd have two articles, and the first one will be called create your first topic, okay? That's about the structure. There's something else you can also put in, and take this in parentheses. I don't want to complicate those of you who aren't familiar with this. You can actually do a thing really quite clever, actually. And some of you could prefer to do it this way. It could be that you have your whole publication to be the whole of your Zendesk Help Center, or more than one category, okay? And what you can then do is drop a level. So this create your first topic, right, could actually be a category. List could be a category, okay? And you can actually publish from inside this level as well. So it's up to you if you want each category, each publication to equal one category, or if you want one publication to be multiple categories, okay? I hope that was clear. Okay, so that's all about the publishing structure. I want to mention something here as another by the way, and we're going to do another webinar on this at some point, okay, regarding branching. A branching one has to be careful with, but I want to give you a very specific scenario and a note about it, and if we have time later, I might show you in more detail. I just want to mention it now, especially for those who are already using. So let's say you've just created version 1 of your content and you pushed it into Zendesk. Now you want to work on version 1.1. So you can create it, I'm not going to show now, so you can create a branch of version 1.1 of your publication. Then you will, in that branched publication, you might branch a topic. So it's different to your original one. What you would then do is use it, and then you'd merge it back into your original you'd merge the topic back into the original publication. I mention that because it's really important, because Paligo updates the content in Zendesk, okay? As long as you push the same topic from the same publication, it will update that article inside Zendesk. If you push a topic, the same topic in a different publication, it'll always create a new section, a new article, whatever it may be. You must push from the same topic in the same publication. That's really important for update to work. Okay, we've had times people saying it doesn't work because that condition wasn't kept. What's important, this UUID, this is the ID that's unique for a topic inside a publication. Okay, so if you branch, you just need to make sure that when you're branching, this UUID doesn't change, which means you would merge topics from the branch publication into the main publication. Someone who wants more details, we can do that at the time, but I just wanted to explain that caveat of making sure that you always update from that same topic in the same publication. That's really, really important. Okay. Now I want to go into the layout editor. So in Paligo, as you might well know, the content is kept separate from the layout. Okay, so we have this special place called layout, and we can create different configurations for those of you who know the industry XSLT, that we can define how the content goes out. So we go to create new layout, and we would select Zendesk multi-section and give it a name. Okay, that's how you do it. And then it would appear here. So this is one that we've done earlier. Now there's a few options here that are relevant. Most important thing is here in Zendesk. So first of all, if you remember, we mentioned before in the publication where the section becomes the first top article in the list, or it doesn't. So this is where you'd set it. By default, it's enabled. I know a lot of you will disable it. So the section is only the section title and not the article. This is the option, but please read the help on another time about allowing to have links between different categories. And there's other options down here as well. You might go into classes. If you end up using taxonomies as classes or roles as classes, then you can turn them on from here. But these are different things that you might want to set up before you push your content into Zendesk. Okay? And how would you push your content into Zendesk? Okay? Now, we're not going to do one live because we all know when you do things live, things happen. But I'll show you how it works. So you'd go onto the publication and you'd go to publish. You would choose HTML. Now, either you can choose the out-the-box Zendesk multi-section, which doesn't have any of those changes we showed in the layout editor, or use the options you just had, which is Zendesk changes here. Okay? And if you notice, the Paligo allows you to select which category you want to push to. Okay, this is always live. Is it calling right now to see what categories you have? So, for example, to that one. And if you have multiple languages, so that's an example without multiple languages. Let's go to an example with multiple languages. So we choose HTML, we choose that, and we choose that one, for example. And we'd say, okay, we've done the translation process in Paligo. So I wanted the English, the Chinese, and the French versions to go over. And I combine them together so it'll be one big session to push them over. So it's that simple once you've translated the content in Paligo to have the translated content inside Zendesk as well. For another time, the profiling, the conditioning attributes, the variables, you can do this, and you can save it. So you can give it a name. So next time, all you would need to do would be to go into here, or even there's a batch publishing, right? So most just go, there isn't an HTML, but here, and publish the document over. That's all you would need to do, okay? I want to make a technical note here, is we've published this category. What would happen, let's say, if you've saved these settings, and category 2 doesn't exist, okay? So in that case, if you remember, let's go to settings. There was an option in settings for a default category that you might have noticed or not. Down here. So if the category doesn't exist for whatever reason, it will push it to the default category. Just a piece of an informal advice, it might be to set up your Zendesk so this category is always hidden from users. So if something goes wrong, right, or then the content won't be available to users, you can easily fix your issues. That's a by the way comment, okay? So that's basically the Zendesk side, from the organizing it in your publication, how to set up, and how to publish, okay? And every time you publish to Zendesk, Paligo actually creates a zip file, which we'll get to as well. Now, the majority of the times, you can probably delete that zip file. If you want to store it for your own purposes, then you're welcome to. But for the first time, it's actually quite necessary, okay? I'll actually show you the structure now, because there's files from that zip file that we can potentially use, excuse me, that we can potentially use in our Zendesk, and we recommend that you do, to have that extra functionality that I showed you before, okay? So I'm just going to show you, if I have a zip file, it opens up something like this, and it has some directories in here, the ones that are relevant to us in the CSS and JS, okay? And I'll show you. So in CSS, there's a Zendesk directory. So there are 3 files that we would recommend if you want to use them, and you can see that the lightbox and for the sticky menu, and this contains a lot of all the other options from the integration that we put from Paligo, to bring those into your Zendesk, and I'll show you soon how. Okay. And for JavaScript, whoops, I think I passed the wrong one. There's also Zendesk directory, okay? So you can push the content. So you can put a lot of the functionalities you can see here. You can push those as well. Put those into the Zendesk theme, and from there you're able to have that functionality. We'll get into that as well. Before we jump out of Paligo, there's something actually really important that probably not a lot of you know. Okay, and we'll mention it before we go into the Zendesk world. Did you guys know that you can actually import Zendesk content directly from Paligo? Okay, this actually is now probably the leading, by a long way, way of importing Zendesk content. If you go to any folder, like any import, and we go to here, maybe I phrased it wrong. We import from Zendesk into Paligo. I don't know what I said, but that's what I intended to say. You've got Zendesk via those settings that we set before, and you can actually say, I want to integrate from a certain section. I'm not going to do it, but if I do OK, it'll import content from Zendesk into your Paligo. Okay. Now, as in any import from a non-structured environment, you might need to fix it up, and especially sometimes the Zendesk content isn't so structured, even as HTML, so you might have to fix things up. And if you significant changes, you can always ask us to help with the customization, maybe to customize the import for you. Okay, but that's very significant, that if you want to import content from your Zendesk, you can now do that out of the box. So I'm guessing probably some of you going, oh, why didn't I know? Why wasn't that? Why didn't I know that before? But now you do. There you go. Okay. So now let's go into Zendesk. So this is just an example, simple Zendesk theme. What I want to show you now is just how to modify the content, modify the Zendesk theme, so you can bring those files that I showed you. Okay, so for those of you, I guess, who know Zendesk, go to Guide Admin. Okay, and you go to Zendesk Themes. Okay, we're not obviously teaching Zendesk, but at least as I have a version here, I can show you what you need to do. So we go into the theme, edit code, and this is where you would add assets. Okay, so those files that I mentioned before, okay, those JavaScript files and the CSS files, this is where you would import them from. Okay, you'd bring them as part of your assets. This is all mentioned in our help pages for customizing the Zendesk pages. Okay, which is all here. Okay, but I'm trying to explain to you here. So you'd bring those assets in. Okay, then you would go to the document head and you would call them in. Okay, there's also a line that's mentioned in the help, so the code snippets also work inside the Zendesk output, and you call them in here. That's the process. That's how it would work. Okay, I want to mention about what about if you want to modify how it looks, how you want to modify the CSS. Okay, so the best thing to do is bring in the content that I showed you, including all the CSS files. Then you can do one of two things, okay, in order to change how the CSS looks in Paligo. And I'm not going to go into the details, but if you go to inspect element, it's easy enough to see the elements they use, and the elements that we use are very similar, if not the same, as the elements you see in the authoring environment. But say we're not going into those details just now. But in order to change the CSS, we recommend you do one of two things. Either make your own CSS file, okay, that will overwrite anything else in this file, or it'll create classes that aren't in there already, and you want it to come first. You want it to take priority. How you do that is you put it at the bottom here, okay? So you should at the bottom, the last CSS should be the last. The last CSS should be the priority CSS you want to use. So that's one way. Don't modify this file, because it could be that we'll change it in the future and ask you to upload a new one with added functionality that we've put in, and you lose your changes. So you should have your own, or you can go into the style CSS and potentially change it there. Just need to check priorities. But that's different ways that you can modify the styling to make sure that the Paligo content matches the theme that you've set for your Zendesk. And you might well need to go and change things in order to make that work. Okay, and I think we've covered the main things I wanted to tell you. Let's go back to our presentation a second, see if I missed anything out. I don't think so. So unless one of my team tells you I've missed something out, how about questions from anybody? If you want me to repeat something, want me to answer questions, please send your questions in. And at present, there aren't any questions. Don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Okay, but someone just sent a chat message. Could you try to use Q&A, guys, if it's open? But okay, first of all, a question from Aaron Cobbler. How do you deal with assets images? That's actually a very good point that I didn't mention. When the import process, or when the integration happens, all the images are brought into Zendesk and the links are kept to them. So the images will be found in those articles. They're not assets. You asked about assets. The images become part of the article, okay? And then when you update them, and everything stays the same. So the images go in, and the link to the Zendesk image is kept as well, okay? I've been asked by Alan to briefly summarize how the hierarchy of Zendesk corresponds to Paligo. Okay, so I'll show you that again here. So if you remember Zendesk, we have category, section, article. Okay, so if we take this case where this publication is basically equal to a category. If you remember, when we go to publish, we publish each time to a separate category. Okay, remember? So in this case, this getting started with Paligo is my category. Okay. The section is creating your first topic, and the article is publishing. That's how they correspond. So if I, for example, put something else, let's bring this in here, okay? And I'm going to put that here. So now there's two articles in the section called Create Your First Topic, okay? I hope that makes sense, Alan. If it doesn't make sense, then just send me off another message, okay? Okay. We've got a message here coming in from Deborah. Can you import one article as the import on a section or category level? Thank you, Deborah. Really good question. Okay, see, there's so many things I didn't mention as we went through, so it's good you guys ask questions. Okay, so what you can do is, remember, in our example, this is a section and this is an article. You can actually publish a section level at a time, not article level time, okay? But you can publish a section level at a time, like that, okay? You can do that. Just to note what I said before, if you were to have this differently, okay, if you were gonna have the whole publication being multiple categories, then just drop one level down to what I showed you. Okay, I hope that's clear, Deborah. Okay, next question. When you publish to Zendesk, are the date of articles updated, regardless if the article has been updated? Okay, I'll have to defer that. I will check an answer for you, okay, because I'm not sure the answer to that one myself. I'll try and get an answer if I can before the end of this webinar. If not, please, you can send us a ticket in. There's my Liverpool accent coming through too strong, and we'll deal with it. Deborah asked, why do we have to copy the CSS and JavaScript files? You don't have to, okay? But what you might not have is some of that functionality. If you remember, there's a page I showed you in the presentation. Let me find it. This one, okay? And I mentioned all sorts of things like the submenus, accordions, lightbox, code syntax. So if you don't bring in the CSS and JavaScript, then you won't be able to use a lot of that functionality. That's what it's there for. It's purely optional. You don't need to use it. You can just put the article, you can put the topics in without putting any assets at all. It's your choice, okay? Next question from Andrea. Hope you're doing well, Andrea. It looked like you had subtopics in the Zendesk submenu. Is there a setting for that, or does that happen automatically? That is, if you have a topic at an article level and then topics under that topic that roll into the article. It's always dangerous reading questions live. I don't know how the people do it. So I know what you're talking about. Let's go in here. So you're talking about these topics here. It actually depends on which theme you're using. It works in some, and it might not work in others, okay? If it doesn't, you can always talk to us. Potentially, we can help you. But what it's doing is, if this topic has these different levels, which you know in Paligo will be let's go to the example for that one. That's going to be a section inside your Paligo environment, okay? And if you even look here, there's a third level, okay? There'll be a section inside of a section inside of a section. I think I've got that logically correct, okay? So that's how that works, okay? I hope that answers your question, okay? Next question, okay? That's an example. Just to go back, of the JavaScript, to have this submenu working is one of the reasons you would put in the JavaScript. Just another example there. Okay, let's see Sam's question again. Scary, Sean. I meant Sean. Scary reading these live. But let's see. How are videos handled? For example, if I add a video in Paligo, how is that synced across to Zendesk? So we put all the embed code in that's necessary in the HTML, so it works. So as long as it's one of the supported videos, which obviously you have to put inside Paligo, it'll also work inside Zendesk, okay? Let me just see this next question. It's 5 lines. Let me just read it quickly, 1 second. Okay, so Sean asked, what about if you want to put a video in that's not one of our supported videos, then please come to us. Then please come to us and we'll help you potentially to customize that, okay? So, you know, if you need something, Sean, just let us know. And anybody, if you want to integrate a video that's not supported. Just go back to Aaron's question because he wants me to clarify something. The images are stored with each article in Zendesk in terms of when we bring in the images from Paligo. When you look inside Zendesk, it's as if the articles were written in Zendesk. The same functionality I didn't mention before, so it's good I get to mention. All the ticket deflection, the widgets, the content is properly inside Zendesk, including images. There's no dependency on Paligo once the content has been put inside Zendesk. So these questions are really good because they're making sure I say things I should have said before. I really enjoy these webinars because you guys make sure that we say everything. Alan's got a question. Let's see. If someone edits an article in Zendesk, does the change automatically cascade back to Paligo? Is it automatic? No, it's not. Okay, it's essentially a one-way connection. We're pushing the content into Zendesk. Okay, if someone modifies that article inside Zendesk and then you push again from Paligo, that will overwrite any changes that somebody made in Zendesk. Don't be confused by what I said before that we have an import from Zendesk into Paligo. That's specific, like a one-time import for bringing your content in. It should not be part of an actual workflow because it'll just create new topics all the time that you probably then need to go and fix. So that import is kind of a one-off. I hope I didn't confuse you by mentioning the import. Okay. Deborah wrote something before that I can't steal the question at the same time about import, not publish. Let me go back to Deborah's question. Okay. You imported the category level, Deborah. Okay. You imported the category level. If you don't want the whole category, just an article or something, then you can always just delete everything that came in for the import apart from that topic. But right now you can just import at the category level. Amit asked, how are you doing? Amit, I noticed you published in Zendesk using HTML, not HTML5. Is HTML not supported in Zendesk? That is correct. So I'm reading the questions too quickly. You guys can't hear. Sorry. Amit asked, can you publish the HTML5 into Zendesk, not just the HTML? The answer to that one, unfortunately, is no. Zendesk theme is essentially HTML5. Zendesk does not allow us to import anything else. All you can do is import the content, and we've added extra functionality, but just the basic HTML. Zendesk is its own publishing engine and delivery system, so no, they wouldn't allow us to do that. How do you publish and map to multiple categories at a time? Okay, so the answer to that one is you publish one category at a time. But what you could do is, if you remember here, we go to publish, and you can actually go to save settings. So you can actually go here and publish a lot, but even more so, let's say you've got different publications you want to publish at the same time. So I'd go to batch publish, and I would say, for example, I want to batch this one, this one, this one, this one, or whatever it is. And I can also search, and I can do publish, and then Paligo will publish those one at a time. So if you have, for example, 10 categories or 10 publications, you could put them all in here, select them all, maybe give them a name. So you, for example, you could just go like this, whoops, like this, for example, and go all, publish, and off you go. Okay, so you can do that. Ian's got a question. Good to hear from you, Ian. If I want to change the styling of, say, the Zendesk hyperlinks, how do I know that element I need to change to apply? How do I know that element I need to apply the change to my CSS? Okay, so if you're here, and let's say I want to change this, not just the hyperlink, But if you're inside content and you go to inspect, that's how you can know what you are. Okay, so assuming you have CSS knowledge, and I think, Ian, you do, then you just look at the look at the output and test it. What I recommend that people do, you should always make a topic when you're testing with all the possible elements you're going to use, right? And then push it into Zendesk, and if you're using your other outputs, and then from there you can modify the CSS to include all the different things you want to. Okay. Yeah, everything in Paligo outputs classes that maps the Paligo elements, and you can find them like I just showed you here. Okay, and a link has the class of xref, XREF, and so you'll be able to modify that class as well. Christopher has asked, will there be a copy of the webinar? So assuming this webinar was acceptable, it'll go online, okay? Alan, can I have the Paligo lock the content when it's published to Zendesk? Okay, so let me show you something here. Can you lock the content? So let's say, for example, when you go to a folder, the folder shows you what's inside that folder. It could be publications, or it could be, it could be topics. Okay, this example here, it's publications. I'm just going to jump to topic just because it'll be easier for me to show you an example. But when you're doing publications, we'll get in a second. So if I go on here, for example, and I've got versions. So first of all, everything at its own status: in progress, in review. If you do translations, okay, so translation review, and released. So if I, for example, just push something to Zendesk and I've finished, the version is finished, so when I go to released, and I can give it a minor or major, it's not piano music, minor or major with a description. So if it's a major release, it's 4. And if it's a minor release, it's 0.1. And there's a description. That basically sets that as released. And if you want to go and edit that again, you need to forcefully say an option, yes, I actually want to open this again. But it goes down to released. So essentially, Alan, that's your equivalent of a lock if you set it to release once it's been published. Okay. Ian, okay, great. Ian got that using the Chrome console. Fantastic. That's all the questions. Does anybody else have any more questions before we wrap it up? Okay, so I'll wrap up. I hope you guys all found that of interest and useful. We really would like to hear your comments. Okay, if you have anything to say, whether it's a compliment, but even more important, a criticism, or you've got something constructive you want to add, or what you'd like to see in future webinars. We were putting subjects together of what to talk about. Okay, let us know, because our idea is to serve you, to give you information that's useful for you to help with the technical documentation. So tell us, for example, it's a way we can improve things. But from myself and for the rest of us at Paligo, wish you happy technical writing, and have a wonderful morning, evening, night, wherever it may be. And it's goodbye from us. Bye, everybody.